Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Danielle, aka Stitcherista here on YouTube. And today is Tuesday, April 19th. So the wind outside is ridiculous. Like, it is just insane. I had to go out today and I'll explain that in a little bit. So no job today, off today. Just had lunch, had sushi. So good. I had a 25% off coupon for DoorDash, so yeah, why not use that, right? Let me try to adjust this a little bit. Okay, that's a little better. Yesterday was a pretty easy work day, which was good. I was done by 3. So we had 3 witnesses yesterday. And the first 15 minutes of the first witness, I hear this consistent burping on the Zoom. It was remote. You know, my boss was at her house and doing it remotely. And the first 2 times I was just like, okay. But then it kept happening and I was like, what the actual fuck is going on here? Like, why does someone keep belching in the Zoom? And I think my boss must have heard it too, but she was quite tactful and just said, I think there's something wrong with the audio. Can we go off the record so we can fix it? And then they did something and I didn't hear it anymore. I think someone was on the call because there were a couple people that were on there and they didn't realize they weren't muted. Fucking mute yourself. Seriously. I was just like, what is happening right now? So then I finished the stitching on the Primrose Cottage Stitches piece. And I was like, ooh, I'm done now. Let me do the junk journal entry. You know, doing these journal entries, it is a lesson. So my initial plan was to wrap the fabric around mat board and, you know, put it down on the page like that. Well, started to do that and it didn't quite go how I expected. And so I wound up tearing it off of I use stitchery tape. So I wound up tearing it off of the cardboard. The fabric got all messed up around the outside, so I had to trim it. And then when I trimmed it, I almost trimmed it too close to the edge where it was almost to the stitching. And I was like, I loved stitching this design so much. Now I'm going to fuck it up right here at this point. So let me show you what I wound up. I wound up putting the fusible webbing on the back, putting it on felt and scrapbook paper. I will show you what I finally came up with. So this was the original page. I covered this. So the original page was, it had some other paper. So I covered it with a bunny scrapbook paper, used a sticker, and he's saying hello. Is that not so cute? So here, then on the other side is where I did my journal entry. So I just put this Happy Easter sticker. Again, covered this side with paper. Ran the paper through my sticker maker. That's the easiest way. And then they had this journal card in there. So in the you know, I bought the scrapbook layout stuff from scrapbook.com. Just, you know, put the designer, the title of the pattern, that I subbed out buttons, put the date, no real thoughts on it, you know. So here is the page. So I put this scrapbook paper over that page. That was just like a brown tea dye page. I used these couple stickers. So if you look close, you can see the piece is on pink felt. See no, where's the felt? The felt is, can't even see the felt, hardly. If you look up here, the felt's pink, and then I use lavender paper. But what happened was I fooled with this so much that the edges were like fraying really bad. So I'm like, all right. So I wound up using they had like corner stickers in there. So I put those down, and then these edges were just horrible. So I said, all right, I'm just going to stick stickers all around it that pertain to Easter. So there's how it turned out. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I was highly irritated by the end of it. Yeah, very, very irritated. I don't want to feel irritated when I do these pages. This book is supposed to be, oh, and then something else that happened. So I had used tacky glue instead of my glue stick. And dummy me, I ran this through the sticker maker and it squeezed the glue. So there's like glue here on the fabric. You can't really see it, but you can see it if you look at the piece. You'll be like, that looks a little odd. So I'm like, yeah, the tacky glue squeezed through the felt. Yeah. So now the only page that I still have to do, let me see something here. Okay, that will fit, but barely. I probably won't be covering that with anything. Okay. So I don't, all the pages I've done in order, except, remember, this was the Ukraine one where I wound up covering the paper, covered it on this side, and then the details about the war on that side. I had a piece in mind for this, and I'm probably still going to do it because I started it yesterday. So, and if I do that, all of the pages will be done in order. Like, there's no blank pages now. Oh, no, I'm a liar. There's 2, 3. Oh, okay. Forget everything I just said in the last minute. Yeah. So I started a new piece yesterday, and, you know, I was talking to Bill because he came home when I was in the middle of doing that layout. He was like, what's wrong with you? And I said, I can't believe I'm going to mess this up after I stitch this. I really, really hate that. And I said, this makes the case for stitching on perforated paper for sure, because perforated paper is just so much easier to finish. It just is. So I started, let me show you. I have to pull it off of here. I'll show you what I have the pattern on too. I started Heart and Hands Hummingbird Sampler yesterday. I am using DMC Color Variations in the color 4045, which is the same color I think I used for the border in the Berries and Blooms one when I did that. I'm pretty sure. I really like that green. And now when I stitch on a Q-snap, I will attach the pattern with a needle minder to the Q-snap. Well, not working with the Q-snap because I'm working on perforated paper. So I pulled out this. This is actually for knitters. It's actually a knitting pattern. You can shut it up like a book and it snaps. Yeah, it's called Knitter's Pride. I got mine off Amazon. But what it does, you can snap it so it stays open. And there's a pocket on this side, a zippered pocket that you could put, I guess, whatever you wanted to. But it also comes with these 2 magnets, but it also comes with like a long strip, which I don't know where that is. So all I did was I attached the pattern to this and set it on the table and just pulled the table close to me because I am highlighting on this pattern. So that's been really nice and easy. And I might actually take this to the retreat because I won't have something to put the pattern on. That's perfect. So I probably will take that. So I am stitching it on ecru perforated paper. And here's what I have done. I love the look of perforated paper so much. I have a piece of paper behind it because if you don't, you see right through the paper. I just love perforated paper so much. I'm trying to show you. There's like an accurate color of the thread. But yeah, so I stitched the border to down here and then started stitching the letters. So it's an alphabet. The bird is the biggest piece, like over here. I'll probably stitch the entire alphabet now that I've started the letters before I go over to that other side. But it was just so nice, literally. I don't need extra lighting, like I don't need any of my lamps. I sat here last night with my corner lamp on and had the table pulled close to me and holding it right in my hand, sitting back, just stitching away. It's a nice break from working with a stitching stand and a Q-snap. It is. And someone asked me a question. They said, when you stitch with paper, something they got recommended 3 strands. I never stitch with 3 strands. I always stitch with 2 strands. And the coverage to me is fine. You can do 3 strands if you want. I just never have. And I've also never used sulky on perforated paper. But yeah, I have every color of perforated paper they make. I have so much of it. So I really think, for the next couple projects, I'm probably going to be using this, and I enjoy it so much. Yeah, look at it back here. Doesn't it look awesome? And I forgot to say, I cover my edges with washi tape because then I'm not catching the thread or my hands or my nails on it or anything. And what's nice about using washi tape is it peels off very easy. And then if you actually wanted to, when you were finishing the project, you could actually use this kind of as a mat. You could put this around the perforated paper. I might do that. I don't know if I would use this one, but yeah, I might do that. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I'm liking it very much. Yeah, so that was my stitching and what I got done. I did pick a winner for the patterns because I'm off today, and I was like, I need to try to get that kind of stuff done when I'm off work, right? And I don't know if I'm going to be working tomorrow. So I picked Cindy Bennett as the winner. What was cool was when I emailed her, she was like, wow, I never win anything. And she said, I've been at your channel since day 1. So that was nice to hear. So I mailed her 2 patterns. They're actually in the mailbox right now. Yeah. So we are going to do a true crime story today. I know, I really didn't look through for OMG moments and stuff like that. I'm not always going to have that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just been easier to not have it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So today's true crime story is called The Coward's Way. It's a cold case solved. Thornton, Colorado is, and why did this move? Oh, because I pushed it. Jesus. Let's just do this like this. Okay. Thornton, Colorado is a small working class community situated some 12 miles north of downtown Denver. Back in the 1980s, it was home to the Grimes family, single mom Gwen and her daughters Deanna, 16, and Nanine, 15. This was a close-knit unit. Yeah, I'm sure a single mom, 2 daughters. I'm guessing, I'm going to move this over here. I'm guessing they were close, right? The girls, with just a year between them, hung out together, had the same friends, liked the same music and fashion. The Grimes' backyard was often a gathering place for the local teens. Gwen also loved spending time with her daughters and they with her. This was a happy home filled with love and laughter. Well, we know something horrific is going to happen to this family. On the night of September 4th, 1980, that happiness would be brought to a horrific end. Nanine was home alone that night. Deanna was at her after-school job and Gwen was visiting her boyfriend. But being alone wasn't that much of a big deal for Nanine. Remember, she's 15. She was a responsible kid and planned to spend the evening doing her homework and listening to music. When Deanna got home at around 10 p.m., she fully expected to find her sister lounging on the couch, the radio blaring out some rock station. Only Nanine wasn't on the couch. The radio was on, but Nanine was nowhere to be seen. And she had left the place in a mess with her school books scattered about and a soda can dripping its sticky contents into the carpet. And Deanna's like, I'm going to kill her, right? And she says, Nini. So that nickname must have been Nini for the other daughter. She called out as she headed down the hall. Then, as Deanna passed her own room, she caught a whiff of something unpleasant. Stopping in the doorway, she peered into the darkness. Then she flicked on the light, blinking against the sudden glare. There was water on the floor, a lot of it, tinged an odd pinkish color. Deanna scanned her eye towards her waterbed and noticed that it had collapsed. Oh, she had a waterbed. Bill did too when we were kids. There was something lying within the folds of the bed, something that Deanna's brain could barely register. Was that the outline of a body? Turning, Deanna sprinted from the house, ran to her neighbors, pounded on their door, and said, I think there's somebody dead in my room. And I guess she wasn't still putting together that it was her sister. Adams County deputies were soon racing towards the scene. Before they arrived, Deanna called her mother and told her that she should come home immediately. By the time Gwen got there, crime scene tape had been strung and the street was clogged with police cruisers. Gwen tried to enter the property but was prevented from doing so by a deputy. Informed that her 15-year-old daughter was dead, Gwen initially refused to believe it, and she's yelling, that's a lie, that's a lie. I mean, I can't imagine being told that kind of news, what your reaction would be, right? Then as the truth kicked in, Gwen drew her daughter into an embrace and they stood there sobbing pitifully, so the other daughter. Inside the house, homicide investigators were dealing with the most gruesome crime scene that most of them had ever been exposed to. It appeared that Nanine Grimes had initially been attacked in the lounge, then forced at knife point to her sister's bedroom. Blood spatters on the wall marked the path she had walked. Inside the room, the killer had used a knife to cut open the front of Nanine's t-shirt. It seems obvious that sexual assault was his intention, but the girl had fought him. Defensive wounds on her hands and arms spoke to the bravery of her fight. In the end, though, she had been overcome. The killer, probably angered by her resistance, had launched a frenzied onslaught. Jesus Christ! Nanine had been butchered, suffering 86 knife wounds. 86? I mean, can you imagine putting 86 stab wounds on someone's body? Like, literally your whole body would be covered, right? Many of them fatal. Yeah, no shit, many of them were fatal. I mean, this was a crime scene with plenty of forensic evidence. In the bathroom where the killer had gone to wash up, the police found a partial fingerprint in blood on a faucet. Then there was a blood trail heading back down the passage, out of the front door and along the side of the house. There were smears of blood on the 6-foot boundary fence, which the killer had scaled to flee the property. And the trail of blood continued for some distance on the other side of the fence. In frenzied attacks of this nature, it is quite common for the assailant to accidentally cut himself, and it appeared that had happened here. Samples of blood were collected at each of the sites, and the police expected to have a suspect in custody soon. And when they did, the blood would be important for comparison. Regrettably, that confidence of a quick arrest would prove unfounded. 2 early suspects were identified but quickly dismissed, cleared by alibis, by blood type, by a lack of any recent wounds. Yeah, because if he's all cut, you're going to see something on him, right? Likewise, a canvass of local emergency rooms turned up no one who had shown up to seek medical attention for a serious cut. Next, investigators turned to Deanna and Nanine's circle of friends, because most likely, I mean, people are killed by people they don't know, but a lot of times it is somebody that you know. The cops, again, no one matched the suspect they were looking for. The cops even staked out Nanine's funeral, hoping that the killer might show up and do or say something incriminating. If he was in attendance, he did nothing to incriminate himself. And then an altogether more terrifying prospect presented itself. Was there a serial killer stalking the streets of Thornton? The basis for this theory lay in another murder committed 8 months before Nanine Grimes was killed. The victim was 13-year-old Kathy Boyer, knifed to death in Belroth Park, barely a mile from the Grimes residence. Was it possible that the same man had killed both teenagers? Why do they always assume it was a man? Just saying, women kill too. The local newspaper certainly thought so, and the police weren't ruling it out. For now, both murders remained unsolved. Cold case is typically the term used for a homicide investigation where all leads have been chased down, all suspects processed. Some of those suspects will have been cleared, others remain as persons of interest but with insufficient evidence to make a case against them. For now, the case is at a standstill. No one is actively working it. In that respect, the Nanine Grimes case was never truly cold. Adams County investigators were determined to solve it, confident that they would eventually get their man. And, as the months and years went by and it wasn't solved, I'm sure that confidence must have started to wane, right? Like you would just start to give up, I'm thinking. Then in 1988, so what year was this? Okay, it was in the 1980, so 8 years later. Then in 1988, a potentially massive break. A man named Dean Selez walked into an Adams County police station and confessed to the murder of Kathy Boyer. A former student at Thornton High School, Selez had a direct link to Nanine Grimes. It was believed that he might have known her. However, Selez denied killing Nanine, and the blood evidence would clear him. Selez wasn't Nanine's killer. That monster was still out there. So 17 more years pass. Or 17 years total. 17. Yeah. But really, 17 plus 8. So it was 25 or 24 years altogether. So 17 more years passed, 17 years without resolution or closure for the Grimes family. This was a fearful time too. In fact, Deanna was so terrified that the killer might come back for her that she changed her name and moved to Tucson, Arizona. Wow. What Deanna didn't know, what she could never have guessed, was that her sister's killer had made the same move. He too was living in Tucson. What? By 2005, 24 years had passed since the murder of Nanine Grimes. The original investigators had long been promoted up the line, and the case now resided with Detective Larry Peterson, a pit bull of an investigator known for his determination and tenacity. Peterson had made a solemn promise to his predecessors on the case. He would not give up until Nanine's killer was brought to justice. Now, advances in forensic science gave him the opportunity to make good on that promise. Blood evidence from the crime scene was sent to the state crime lab for extraction of a DNA profile. This was then submitted to CODIS, where it found a match. Peterson was presented with a name that meant nothing to him. The suspect was someone the investigative team had never considered. Troy Brownlow had been a classmate of Deanna Grimes at Thornton High, where he had been a talented athlete and somewhat of a joker. He had also had a crush on Deanna and had visited the Grimes residence on several occasions. Brownlow had had his problems with the law since leaving school, racking up a long rap sheet, which included arrests for theft, aggravated assault, domestic violence, and firearms offenses. Lordy. He had been in and out of prison over the years, which was how his DNA had ended up in CODIS. What concerned investigators was that he was now living in Tucson, the same city as Deanna Grimes. Was that just coincidence, or might Brownlow be stalking the sister of his victim? The police were not willing to take a chance. They moved quickly to place Brownlow under arrest. So, brought back to Colorado, Brownlow asserted his Fifth Amendment right and refused to answer questions. He did, however, agree to an interview with the Rocky Mountain News, in which he promised to reveal what had really happened on that fateful night in September 1980. This turned out to be a rather fantastical tale. According to Brownlow, he had been visiting Nanine that night when a man entered and threatened them with a knife. Brownlow had scuffled with the man, sustaining a cut to his hand in the process. He had then fled the house, scaled the fence, and run away into the night, abandoning Nanine to her fate. He had learned of her murder the next day, but had been too ashamed to come forward, ashamed of his cowardice. Why, when you left the house, wouldn't you have fucking called the police? Right? Why would you not have done that? This quite ludicrous story was the same one that Brownlow would bring with him into his trial. Unfortunately for him, there was plenty of evidence that disproved his version of events. The most damning of these was the bloody fingerprint he had left behind on the bathroom faucet. Yeah, nope. Was the jury really to believe that Brownlow had stopped to wash his hands before fleeing the knife-wielding attacker? No. The far more likely scenario was the one presented by the prosecution, that Brownlow had arrived at the house that night to visit Deanna, that he instead had found Nanine home alone, and that he had tried to force himself on her and then stabbed her to death when she resisted him. That probably is what happened. This was what really happened, and this is what the jurors believed. It took them just 3 hours to find Troy Brownlow guilty as charged. Brownlow was sentenced to 20 years to life, making him eligible for parole when he is in his early 60s. Because so when he was arrested, he was already in his 40s. 24 years had passed. Given the heinous nature of his crime, he is likely to serve many more years than the minimum. One more detail would emerge after the trial, a detail that perfectly illustrates the kind of man that Troy Brownlow was and is. In 1992, Thornton High hosted a 10-year reunion for its class of '82. Within the context of our story, there were 2 notable attendees that night, Deanna Grimes and Troy Brownlow. Wow. Deanna has a photograph of the event showing Brownlow sitting a couple of seats from her, looking in her direction. He is smiling, perhaps savoring the terrible secret he holds at her expense. She probably talked to him that night, and he knew all along that he had killed her sister. I can't. Wow. Okay, we are going to do a motivational story because I need like a brain cleanser after that, right? All right. Okay, so childish behavior is what this one's called. A 24-year-old boy looking out from the train's window shouted, "Dad, look, the trees are going behind." Dad smiled, and a young couple sitting nearby looked at the 24-year-old's childish behavior with pity. Suddenly, he again exclaimed, "Dad, look, the clouds are running with us." The couple couldn't resist and said to the old man, which, mind your fucking business, first of all. No. The couple says, "Why don't you take your son to a good doctor?" Because they think something's wrong with him mentally. The old man smiled and said, "I did, and we are just coming from the hospital. My son was blind from birth. He just got his eyes today." Boy, I bet that couple felt like shit. Felt like, you big dummy. So every single person on the planet has a story. Don't judge people before you truly know them. The truth might surprise you. Yeah, when you see, and I try to really put that into perspective when I'm out in public, especially like something like that. You may see something and think you know the whole story, and you don't know anything. That couple didn't. They thought that person had a mental disability. And even if he did, it's none of your business. Mind your business. Yeah. I think that's awesome though. And boy, I bet that couple was like, ooh, burn. Like, you got them. The old man was like, first of all, the way the story is told, he is very hospitable, but I would have been like, right? Yeah, why don't you take him to a doctor? Why don't you fucking mind your business? How many times can I say that? So, mind your business, people. Can't I just work at the bank? I don't have to be Beyonce. I'm going to be saying that. You're going to get sick of hearing me say that. I need to find that clip, though, on YouTube. I forget the comedian. The way that she said it, it's perfect. All right. Ooh, good tear with that one. All right. And it left remnants. Okay. You're either sucking the life out of life or breathing life into it. And you always have a choice in which one you are. I kind of like that one. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I like that one. That was a good one. Okay. So I hope you guys have a fantastic Tuesday. It is only, what time is it here? It's 1:10, so I still got a little bit of time where I can do some stitching. And I'm going to. Bill won't be home until about 3:30. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing and spending a half an hour of your time with me today. And I will see you in my next video. Oh, I did want to remind you guys that because I'm going to the retreat, there will not be a video Friday or Saturday, just to keep that in mind, because I'll start Thursday on my trip when I'm going. I'll start doing my retreat vlog. I always film a video. It will be up on Monday. So you're going to have to just wait to hear the juiciness, right? There's always a fucking story. There's always something that happens at these retreats that is worth talking about. So I will see you guys tomorrow.